I witnessed. I was there.
That's how long this podcast has been going on. Even longer than that.
Crazy.
Wow. Wild times.
Dude, we started doing this in January 2020. What a bunch of idiots.
Dummies. Worst possible thing. And much like them, just to bring us all in here, we're doing a throwback review because we didn't have movies to review at the time. Welcome to a One Tape Podcast. We're doing a throwback review. Taxi Driver. We're here, episode 159. There were movies that came out this week and a lot of streaming stuff, but Taylor Swift completely just shat on the box office. So everyone kind of like cleared out. They James Harden cleared out the paint. Anyway,
I cleared out too. I didn't go anywhere near a theater for that particular reason.
I was in there. I was amongst the Swifties, and I came out like, you know what? I get it. I see the vision.
Before we get to the title of this podcast, the title movie of this podcast, the thing that everybody wanted to hear, Dex's Taylor Swift review.
Look, man, I like a lot of straight men. I was like, I mean, yeah, Taylor Swift, she has a song here or there that I like. It's cool, whatever. Like, she's not really for me. She doesn't make music for me. And then I sat there for like 3 hours, and I was like, oh, wait, I know in like 90% of the songs that she's doing right now. Holy shit. I didn't realize she'd been doing fucking 17 years worth of music that I like. That's crazy. And just being in a theater where there's a bunch of people just singing and screaming and being excited about something, I don't know. It does something for me. I like being around communal joy. We don't get enough of that. So, you know, it just kind of washes over you, and it's very well made. So if you haven't seen it, go check it out yet. Go check it out.
We were going to go see it, but I was looking at ticket prices, and normally this doesn't stop me from seeing movies or whatever. They were upcharging for this particular
$25.
Yeah. For the biggest screens, it was $25. And I talked to Caitlin, and she was like, we don't have to spend $50 to go see this movie right now. We can wait.
Oh yeah, I forgot there's two of y'all. That's tough.
I mean, it wasn't going to be me, like 30-year-old dude going into the theater. I mean, I know you did it, but
yeah, that was me.
That was literally me.
There's something inherently weirder about 30-year-old white guy going and sitting in the theater with like a hoodie on. Just, I don't know. I wasn't going to go do it. There's a certain stigma surrounding us, if you will. So
Taylor Swift could give me $25 and I would not go see this film. I would not.
Teja's all-time hater, and I kind of respect it.
Yeah, I respect it. I respect the commitment. I have folded, and I am now a Taylor Swift fan.
Beyonce will be getting my $25. Hopefully hers is also well made because I need that. I need that in my life.
I will be there. Is Beyonce's? Is it the concert, or is it like a whatever the last visual album thing she did was? Like,
it's a concert. It's not going to be the concert in full because that would make it like literally a 3-hour film. I'm sure it's going to be cuts and splices, but yeah, it's going to be the concert.
Sick.
Speaking of people who have made concert movies, Martin Scorsese. He's made several of them, actually.
Speaking of stigmas around white men.
Yeah. Finally, a film for me. A film for us, guys. You know what I mean?
Totes, for sure.
Yeah.
I definitely felt represented in this movie.
What would be the name of Travis Bickle's podcast?
Oh, shit.
Something to do with being an incel and looking for Q, for sure.
The Travis Bickle experience?
Yeah, the Travis Bickle experience.
Yeah, that's what it would be. There you go. That's perfect. That's literally what it would be.
Porn theater showtimes with Travis Bickle.
That is the wildest shit in the world to me, by the way. Like, I know I'm familiar with the concept of the porn theater, but every time I see it in a movie, I'm like, why do people live like this?
Revolutionary at the time, man.
Disgusting. I'm sorry. Going to watch porn with a whole bunch of other bros is disgusting.
Yeah, no thank you.
Literally disgusting.
R.I.P. Pee Wee Herman. You know.
What's the policy on fapping in there? Because some people in there are getting the full experience, and I don't want to be in there while people are
I
fapping.
think the thing is that you couldn't. You'd be kicked out.
But
So like,
then why do it?
I don't know.
Why? Like if you can't. I never. Well, no, we don't have to do this. I'm
Edging, just a whole lot of edging going on.
so you can remember it later when you get home. Like,
That's real
storing
sicko mode shit.
Storing it away. You know what I mean? Like, remember when your imaginations were good when you were younger? Anyway, we're going way off the rails. We chose to do Taxi Driver because one, Tej was not going to go see the Taylor Swift movie. I couldn't get to it. But a movie that should dominate, it probably won't dominate the box office because Taylor Swift will still continue to do that, but it'll give it a run for its money, and is said to be one of Martin Scorsese's one, last films, but two, one of his better films maybe ever. Killers of the Flower Moon. Excuse me. Killers of the Flower Moon is coming out at the end of this week by the time that you're listening to this. So we wanted to do sort of a Martin Scorsese look back on films that maybe we hadn't seen. We're going to only get to one. Hopefully we can maybe revisit some others after Killers of the Flower Moon comes out, because there's sort of a runway after that as well too, of movies that haven't dropped there, that won't drop until the holidays.
Yeah.
But if it is a movie made before 2000, Dex and I have had trouble seeing it. So there is there's a cool thing to like revisit here. We've already revisited Goodfellas for my sake on this podcast. We've done The Departed as well. I'm sure we've talked at length about some of his older movies, including Wolf of Wall Street and some other things, but we haven't really revisited those in full. I just threw out Taxi Driver because it has just been a cultural like blank spot for me. Just
Same.
a cultural blind spot. A lot of his 70s and 80s films. If you are a younger millennial like us, you probably were introduced to Scorsese with The Departed, maybe Gangs of New York, The Aviator. Dex, what I mean, Goodfellas, maybe even for you, but like, where did your knowledge, like, I didn't even have any sort of idea of, when I was watching The Departed, of who Scorsese, like what that meant to be watching a Martin Scorsese movie.
Yeah, I was in the same place. I watched The Departed because it was the actors. Like it was that they were the reason I watched it. And so I didn't really know much of anything about Scorsese until after that. But yeah, The Departed was my first intro. Never really bothered to go back to watch the older stuff because I don't often do that, to be honest. A lot of movies, it's like if I wasn't forced to watch it by like my friends or whatever, I'm not gonna just be sitting at home like, you know what? Let's watch Taxi Driver. Today's the day. Like, you know.
Also a wild thing to do. We all kind of had the same experience where we were like, are we really watching this by ourselves at our homes?
Yeah, I'm just at the crib, just like, let's put on Taxi Driver tonight, you know. Me pour myself a little drink, sit here and watch Taxi Driver. But yeah, so I'm glad that I've seen it now, so I get what people are talking about when they reference Taxi Driver. Yeah, that too. But yeah, like when Joker came out and I was like, this fucking sucks. And everyone was like, yeah, it sucks. It's just a bad version of Taxi Driver. I was like, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, what they said.
But now I know.
Did you have a much more significant runway, I think, with your introduction to Scorsese?
Definitely was not Taxi Driver, but I've seen Taxi Driver before.
You're not that old.
You're not that old, but I think this is probably my second time seeing Taxi Driver, and so I kind of got to go at it from a different perspective of watching for the second time and kind of noticing things or seeing the way that things are built up, knowing how the movie ends and what we're driving towards. No pun intended. But yeah, it was a. I watched this at home by myself, drinking wine on a Friday night, which is a totally normal way to spend a Friday night, watching Taxi Driver and watching Travis Bickle. But I have some interesting thoughts about this film for sure on second watch, and a lot of the things that Dexter going to say about the film, about the things that you probably didn't like about the film, are definitely things that I'm probably going to agree with. But I like the film, obviously, but this is not an easy watch. This is not a film that's like an easy watch to sit down and get through. There's some weird, wild shit in this movie. Some even more weird and wild than other Scorsese movies. Like Wolf of Wall Street's got some wild shit in there, but it's not. It's a Taxi Driver is this whole other level of filth and disgustingness that's in this film. It's nasty.
Well, the filth and disgustingness, and I will talk about it at length after I give the description and give our reviews and stuff. It's like, is New York City hell? Is this hell? like Wolf of Wall Street's one big party as he's descending into further and further madness, and it's not like celebrating that like you think it is, but it's like you could see where people would mistake it for one big party for Jordan Belfort when it's not that. He's not venerating those people, but 1976 New York City in this looks like Dante's Inferno. Like it's I don't know. Yeah, it just there is a disconnect between the wild stuff that is happening in this movie and the wild stuff that is happening in later movies, because this feels like so much more gross. You know what I mean?
It does.
He made it worse than Gotham. Like this shit is disgusting. No, how can anyone live in a city that is Scorsese's New York City, or at least his vision of the New York City of the 70s? Nobody would ever want to live in that place. It's the most disgusting place ever.
Yeah, so we just wanted a long introduction to say we'll be doing some Martin Scorsese retrospective because, one, he's probably, if not the most important director of our time, probably, I mean, one of the most important directors of our time. And he's said he's only going to make like 2 or 3 more films. I believe his wife has health issues. He's 80. He just says he can't really do it anymore. Plus, I am for certain that we will talk about Killers of the Flower Moon incessantly on this podcast until the Oscars drop in fucking March. So, yeah. So to get our history up on Scorsese, I think is a pretty good, I don't know, exercise to do. So yeah. Plus, there's a few here and there that are streaming, like Raging Bull, but most of these we have to actively seek out. A lot of his stuff you have to rent. It's not available.
Yeah, I paid the $3.99 Apple or whatever it was to rent this shit.
Yeah. Same. So interesting that that's going on. Taxi Driver, 1976, rated R, hour 54 minutes, 8.2 on IMDb. A mentally unstable veteran works as a nighttime taxi driver in New York City, where the perceived decadence and sleaze fuels his urge for violent action. 94 Metascore. Martin Scorsese, director, written by Paul Schrader, who was his writing partner for a very long time before Paul Schrader started making his own ideas into weird movies. Paul Schrader, interesting fella, if you've seen some of his other films as well. Stars Robert De Niro, Jodie Foster, Sybil Shepherd, just looking immaculate.
Fantastic.
Sybil, Travis, I understand. I don't understand a lot of what you did, but I understand why you were sitting outside of that campaign office.
I volunteer.
Sybil Shepherd was looking great.
Vote for Palantine.
Yeah, I would also want to give my vote to Palantine as well.
Albert Brooks, a young Albert Brooks, which was strange to see. It's strange to see some of these like younger people that that Scorsese got to be in some of his earlier films. Because he wasn't like a commercial success, but I guess neither was De Niro, even though he had won an Oscar. There's a bit of trivia that said like De Niro got like he was only recognized once for The Godfather while he was driving around in a taxi this entire time. And he said it was according to the trivia, he said it was another younger actor who said, "Man, you just won an Academy Award. Is it that hard to get work?" While he was driving around. Anyway.
God damn.
Peter Boyle is in this, otherwise known as the dad from Everybody Loves Raymond. If y'all know that.
Nope.
Okay. And of
Phenomenal
course,
television show, by the way.
yeah, and of course Harvey Keitel as
Harvey
is
Keitel's
with,
there.
yeah, most of his early movies. Also, Scorsese himself has a very crazy part in this that made you think, "Oh, Martin Scorsese was on cocaine." That's right. So yeah, this movie was a semi-commercial success. Let me see. Do you want to play guess the box office?
Super cheap to make. I know it only cost like $1 or $1.5 million to make. So, I mean, they were pretty much making money from the beginning.
Yeah. Do y'all want to play guess the box office for $1976?
I can't. They couldn't have made that much money with this gross ass film. I'm gonna say $20 million.
I'll go 25.
Price is right. Dex wins $28 million.
Let's go.
Nice.
1.3 million to make. So yeah, this was a subtle hit. It was nominated for 4 Oscars, didn't win any. You want to play guess the Oscar game?
There's no way that we're going to be good at this. This movie came out, what, 1978 or some shit like that?
6. So 1977.
76.
Yeah.
I know De Niro and Foster got nominated because
2 for 4.
I just don't know the other two.
I bet you Score is one of them.
Yeah, Bernard Herrmann, he died. He was posthumous.
Yeah. Oh yeah, this was his last.
Nominated.
Yes. Yep. Screenplay?
Screenplay?
No, it was nominated for Best Picture. Scorsese didn't get a.
Really?
Yeah. So screenplay didn't get a nomination. Neither did Scorsese for director. So.
What won Best Picture that year?
Was this Rocky?
Might have been.
Let's see. This year, Peter Finch won for Best Actor.
Rocky.
It was Rocky. Yep.
Nice.
Which was
they
another
picked the right film. They picked the right film.
Which was another. People forget, and we've talked about this before. Rocky was an independent film, so it was like king of like independent cinema that won. What a great year for the Oscar. Rocky, All the President's Men, Network, Taxi Driver, and a movie I've never really heard of, but Bound for Glory, were the
those
best
top
pictures.
Couple movies. Those movies are all very, very good.
Yeah.
Wow. That's a stacked year. 2 very, very uplifting movies, Taxi Driver and Rocky going head to head. 2 very uplifting movies.
Yeah, All the President's Men about the president resigning as well, too.
Yeah, just a great year to feel very good about America, for sure.
Is Network the one where the guy loses his mind on network TV too? Where he's like, he's like, I'm mad as hell and I don't get taken anymore. Anyway. If you haven't seen All the President's Men, Dex, by the way, that's like one of my top movies of all time.
I have not seen it. Actually.
It's phenomenal. It's really good.
Yeah, it's very good. So it has a lower score on Rotten Tomatoes than you would think because Dex is on there. 89%.
Dex is on there. That's not lower than I would think. This movie is disgusting. There's some people that are just going to be out on this film no matter how well it's made because it's fucking disgusting. It's gross. And every year that passes, the way that America has grown and changed, the movie actually gets more gross because it's touching on stuff that's still relevant to today, which I guess
it's even more relevant. It's actually even more relevant.
It's crazy. It's crazy how watching this movie from a 2023 perspective, it's crazy how much of this stuff is still in our everyday conversation, especially our online conversation. If Travis Bickle ever got the internet, look out, bros. That guy is going to look out.
93% audience score. A must-see film for movie lovers. The Martin Scorsese masterpiece is as hard-hitting as it is compelling, with Robert De Niro at his best. Again, De Niro did the thing where he was he set the standard for all future actors to abuse their body, and he lost like 30 pounds or something for this role too, or something like that, and then gained it all back for Raging Bull. So yeah. Anyway, Dex, I do want to start with you because we were having a conversation right before we started, 20 minutes in, give whatever reviews we're going to give. But like, you were saying, or I guess I was saying, there is some sort of like disconnect when you go back and you watch older movies now, especially at home.
Yeah.
It's like the relatability is, and like, don't get mad at me, but like we just said that this movie is probably more poignant now than it was then. But the relatability of watching it dissipates because you're not relating to the people in the time that it was made.
Yeah. It's one of those things where like everyone who I've ever heard just be like, "Oh, Taxi Driver is so amazing. Like it's one of the greatest films of all time." Like even Leonardo DiCaprio, like I saw he did like some video where he was talking to Martin Scorsese about how like influential it was for him when he watched it at 15 and saw himself in Travis Bickle or whatever. I don't see myself in Travis Bickle, so like I just am not.
That's a good thing, by the way.
I'm just not as compelled.
Travis Bickle.
Yeah, I'm just not as compelled as it seems like other people are who see themselves in Travis Bickle, which like, you know, that makes sense. Like I watched this movie for the first time in 2023 as a black person, and I'm like, well, this guy kind of sucks. He's just scared of black people. You know, and like it's not like, oh well, I can't like movie characters who, you know, don't like black people or whatever. Like I've seen a lot of movies, you know, like I can get over, you know, people being racist in movies, like it's fine, but I'm just not super compelled by the character because I don't relate to him. And I don't know, like the plot isn't strong enough or gripping enough for me to just be like, oh, this is just so amazing. Like the commentary, I'm sure it was groundbreaking in 1976, but like I'm not watching it in 1976. I'm watching it in 2023 after having watched a whole bunch of other movies. So the commentary about loneliness and how toxic masculinity escalates into violence, or you know, how you feel like you're saving women from other toxic masculinity, but that just makes itself into more toxic masculinity. Like that stuff doesn't move me like it probably would have if I had seen this movie when I was 15 years old. But that's not to say it's bad. It's just not for me at this point in my life. So I mean, I like I said, I want to say it's bad. Like I want to give it like this movie stinks. It's a C plus or whatever. But like I'm probably at like a B. Like it's just not. And like De Niro's really good in it. Obviously, everyone's even before you see the movie, you've seen the "you talking to me" thing. Like,
Yeah.
you know, it's like that's just good. But overall, I'll probably never watch it again all the way through. But there are clips in it that I'll probably watch forever. Like, so you know, it's got that going for it. I'm at like a B.
You Secret Service?
The smile he has on his face when he's talking to the Secret Service agent is so perfect.
You a cop?
He has on the most shit-eating grin the entire time he's talking to the guy. De Niro's perfect. I mean, he's perfect
Also,
in almost everything. I mean,
like another thing, it's just not like ambiguous enough for me. Like I feel like a lot of the people who really like this movie are like, what really happened? Oh my god, I don't know. Like it's like a debate about like whether any of this was real or whatever, and whether Travis Bickle is a good guy or a bad guy or an anti-hero or something in the middle or whatever. And I'm like, first of all, I don't feel compelled to ask any of those questions by this movie, like what's on the screen. But like the answers aren't interesting enough for me to like be super in love with this movie. But obviously I respect the craft. Scorsese, like we said at the beginning, one of the goes. Like, you know, it's a really well made movie. I'm just not personally moved by it, which is fine. So
Um,
I want to know what you thought, Royden, because you had also never seen it. So I want to know what you thought as somebody who's also watching it for the first time in 2023, just like Dex was.
Well, I was texting you in real time, and I was trying not to ruin it for Dex, but you got some of my text messages being like, "What the fuck, dude?" But then at the very end, when it all said and done, and it was like 2 a.m. when I finished it, and I had a plan to like drink a lot of drinks and like just, you know, plow through it, and I just kind of found myself like staying in my seat, not really checking my phone, which sounds sacrilege when watching some like classic cinema or whatever to like super movie nerds. But that's how we just kind of absorb content now, second screens or whatever, especially if you're watching.
don't you dare call it content, Roy, and they'll come for you.
Oh, sorry. Absorb stuff, things, whatever. Like you're all like, you can't, or at least I can't help but second screen. And I kind of found myself really engrossed by it. Now as to say like, yeah, I'm kind of at the point where does the message, is it as transgressive now? Maybe that's the wrong word. Probably. I don't know. Is it as transgressive now as it was then? Absolutely not. Does it still play? Maybe more so now than it does then? Yes, which is weird. It's like like Dex was saying, we've kind of become
our country has become the New York
that
Scorsese is showing. Is that what you're saying?
Well, I kind of think that we've kind of become numb to the toxic. We're all just kind of like, yeah, we get it. Like,
yeah, you're right. Men are trash. Like,
yeah, like we know. Watching it now, we're like, yeah.
It's like, yeah, I've seen American Psycho and Fight Club and Barbie. Like, you know, like I know.
Yeah, like, you know, and it so many other films have tried to do this and failed. Joker, and I think that watching,
they got a Best Picture nominee and they made $1 bajillion. They did not fail. Just because we all know that it's bad doesn't mean that they failed. That's not fair.
It just makes me so much more mad at that movie now watching it.
It should. It very much should.
And like I had known that it was copying Taxi Driver because I was like I've seen enough of Taxi Driver and heard enough about it that I got it. And like I was like, yeah, this is definitely a blatant ripoff of what they were doing with that. But now seeing it in full and like some of the conversations that they're having and the violence in it and stuff like that, it's just all the same. It's the same.
It's the same movie.
Doesn't the Joker even do the voiceover? Because you know we're hearing Travis's voiceover. That's really his journal entries, and we hear them as voiceovers to the movie. There's a scene in Joker where they do a similar thing. Like it's a very very straightforward homage to Taxi Driver all through the film. So even the way the film looks, even the way that it looks is like it looks like Taxi Driver. It looks everything so dirty, so dingy. It feels like everything in this movie is the dirtiest possible version of that street or that diner or that apartment. Everything is so disgusting. Ugh.
I do love that like 33-year-old Martin Scorsese was like on cocaine, like driving around in a taxi, like stealing shots in New York and like making this for $1 million. The craft of it is amazing. The score is incredible, and it's just kind of pulsating throughout the movie the entire time.
Weirdest score ever, but it's the most memorable score. It makes no sense. It's insane.
Yeah, and I think that was a guy who was doing like, if I'm not mistaken, was doing like country score. I was not country, but was doing like Western scores. No, I lied. Sorry. He was doing stuff for he was doing Vertigo and Psycho and North by Northwest. So he was doing all of Alfred Hitchcock stuff. So forgive me. But so that makes sense that he kind of found a lane in this to like make sort of a unsettling sort of horror score.
it's very different than a Hitchcock score, but it's like the same undertones or the same messaging, right?
Yeah.
But like the actual music itself is just it's the way that you're mixing kind of that, like every time he thinks about a woman, you would get that one with the horns, but then there'll be like these drums that come in. It's kind of, it feels like there are two scores that are happening and they're like clashing with each other, and it just really works. It really works with the storytelling. It really works.
Now I will say, like, I don't know how. I think in the time there's a piece of this that like veterans. This was really. This is the first time that we saw like the angry veteran in movies, and maybe not the very first time, but one of the first times that like made it popular was the angry Vietnam veteran, and a lot of people hated that at the time. But it is interesting seeing that stereotype like portrayed for the very first time, or sort of the root of that. And yeah, I just think young De Niro, just the most confidence of any actor ever. He just is never unsure of what he's doing. And it's crazy to see. It's just crazy to see. Yeah, these guys are young ones. I don't know. I'm rambling, but I just think that like there's a lot of stuff here that I'm glad that I saw for the first time in full. The ideas, while still poignant, aren't as game changing now, and that's unfair to say. Like, I'm not saying that as like a criticism to Scorsese, because why would it
50
be?
years ago, you should have known where we'd be.
You should have known that they're gonna copy you in Don't Worry, Darling. But no, I don't know. I think
I did have that same thought when y'all were like, what would Travis Bickle's podcast be? I was like, I don't know, but he'd for sure be in the Don't Worry, Darling world.
Travis Bickle would definitely lock his girlfriend in an internet prison where she thinks it's real, but it's really a fake reality, all because she doesn't like make him sandwiches at the end of the night after working long hours. That's definitely something Travis Bickle would do.
Yeah. I do think this was just a Paul Schrader heat check of just being alone the entire time in like Los Angeles and being like, I got some ideas, I got some thoughts. Let me write these down. You know what I mean? Martin Scorsese dropping a hard in. Like, that's some of this stuff doesn't age well, but
wow, this movie doesn't age well in that regard. There's some nasty shit going on.
The treatment of black people in this, women, but also the treatment of black people and how they're portrayed on screen.
Also, the treatment of little girls in this film. There's a lot going on here. Not
to do a retrospective, everybody's going to be like, you liberal cucks, like coming after this movie. Not coming after the movie. I'm just saying the treatment of minorities in this film is crazy. And yeah.
Also, it's like, okay, Scorsese, you just wanted to say that, didn't you? Like, you didn't have to. Even in 1976, you didn't have to.
Yeah, just a hard R in the back of the car. Anyway, yeah, so you could totally be like, yeah, I get that he was on drugs, So
that's just the fact that Scorsese cast himself in that role specifically is just insane to me. Every time he pops up on the screen, I'm just like, holy shit, man, we're about to do this scene. That scene is just so weird.
He's also in the background of some of the shots too. Did you notice that? Like, he's at the campaign headquarters.
Yes, he's at the campaign headquarters. I did notice. I did not notice that the first time I saw it, but the second time I was like, that's him. That's Scorsese again. But maybe he's supposed to be the same exact guy who's like going to end up later in the back of the taxi with him and have that. They don't even resolve that scene. That scene just happens, and then you're just like, and back to his life. He's back in the diner with his friends. They don't even like resolve it.
Yeah,
the world sucks, I guess.
Holy shit, man!
I don't know. I haven't even.
What's your grade? They're gonna accuse you guys of both being liberal.
No,
you give this a B as well.
No, I give it an A minus. It's weird to be like one of the most celebrated films of all time is like a 91, but that's kind of like where I am with it. also looks great, like just the filming in the car and stuff. I don't know, just those shots of just like buildings passing by, and it's all at night, and yeah, it's just lit awesome. The ending fight scene or whatever it is weird. Like it's so
Super weird.
weird.
You can really feel the budget and how
Yeah,
they set that whole thing up. You can really feel the budget.
there's like 10 gunshots and none of them are accurate.
The way the like what's his name? The pimp that like stands in the corner, the way he
Sport.
died was so fucking funny, dude. Like, he gets shot and he's like
Harvey Keitel. Yeah.
That's Harvey Keitel.
dude, that shit. I laughed so hard.
Sport,
Shout out.
yeah.
Sport.
So I don't know, man. I don't know how to feel about it, because it's so revolutionary for the time. Obviously, there's so much pop culture around it, and yet I don't know. It's just hard. It's a hard watch. I just keep going back to that.
Yeah.
And
It's not like watching Goodfellas where you're like, damn, this rules. Like,
yeah, this goes. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's like it's just a different kind of movie.
It is a big, like, Martin Scorsese and Paul Schrader have some thoughts about a lot of things, and you have to sit there and watch them work that out. And you're just kind of like, it's art, but it is hard to look at. Anyway, go ahead, Teach.
So I cannot separate my thoughts on this film from just the thoughts about how the film was made. Like, these people, De Niro is just literally hitting the height of his fame at that time. Just came off The Godfather, which again wasn't the biggest commercial success, but will go on to, it's very well renowned by the people who did see it at the time. So he's coming off Godfather 2, coming off Godfather 2, and all of a sudden he's in these grimy, nasty ass cabs driving around New York City in the dirtiest, nastiest film ever. Scorsese just hopping in cabs and grabbing cameras and making this cheap ass movie about this cab driver. I can't separate how cool that moment must have been in their lives from actually watching the film. But the film itself is not an easy watch at all. And it's kind of like, in a lot of ways, a rough draft of all the not only the Scorsese characters that we grow to know in subsequent films, but also the De Niro characters that we grow to know in subsequent films as well, in terms of what kind of men they put on screen, right? You're kind of seeing a rough sketch outline of those things that are way more curved and smooth going forward. But in this one, you see all the jagged lines and how nasty and disgusting kind of what they think this man is. We're placed in with this man who routinely goes to watch porn in porn houses, gets on a date with a baddie for the first date, well, the second date technically, because he takes her out to coffee, I guess, for pie. The second date,
real quick, that coffee and pie scene is where I knew this was going off the rails. His thoughts about like men that talk to her and how he is so much better than I'm the alpha male, and like we have this connection, and she's kind of like eating it up a little bit, but I'm like,
nasty.
If you were a dude in 2023 and you were like, when I walked in and I saw that we had this connection and I knew that we were in, you'd be like, whoa, okay.
The fact that, first of all, the way he just goes into the office, gets her, you see the little beta male cuck dude in the literally standing behind stuff, looking at the conversation. The way that they framed this man, he's literally standing behind corners, looking at her interact with Travis Bickle, who must be the most handsome, most amazing guy ever, because that dude is immediately jealous, even though he should be scared, because they literally saw the same dude hanging out in a taxi, just watching Sybil Shepherd at work. It happened. She knows it's him when he walks in. He walks right up to her. The guy talks to him first, and he says, no, I think I'd rather get signed up by her. And him knowing what this guy's been doing and stalking this woman, basically, just like walks to the corner and stands behind some walls. Like, the way that this whole scene is presented, the whole thing is so like, it's so out there. It's like, why is Sybil Shepherd interested in Travis Bickle at all? It doesn't make any sense. but somehow she is interested in him. Somehow she even seems to like him a little bit after they go to eat pie. The second date, he takes her to a porn house, and he doesn't understand why she doesn't like it. Like, this dude is the nastiest, grossest dude. He's dropping
like, what's our
N-bombs.
problem?
He hates everybody in the city. He hates everybody equally, except for like other white dude bros. He treats women horribly. He falls in love every time he sees a woman. You hear this score, which is the best part of the movie to me, where this like you have his incel score mixed with this like kind of fake porn music, kind of fake like lovey-dovey music, and it kind of flows in and out throughout the film. The way he thinks about everything is just kind of, his perspective is gross and off, and he just slowly gets worse and worse and worse. And he starts to, like the way he starts to, the scene where he meets the secret agent guy, or the Secret Service guy, and he's just smiling at him, is probably the only funny scene in the film. That scene makes me laugh every time, just because the way he's got this smile on is just so weird and so perfect. I just think that De Niro does a great job bringing the character to life, but it's just it's not an enjoyable movie to watch. It's more of like the craft of it is enjoyable. The Jodie Foster performance to me is just amazing. Like, I don't know why an actual 12-year-old is actually playing that role. That's really weird. That she was on set for all this stuff. Well, she was not of age at the time. She was a kid.
No, yeah, she was a teenager, but like it was kind of weird to me thinking like, oh, everybody talks about the Jodie Foster part, and she's on screen for like 10 minutes.
Yeah, she's not on
screen. And she got nominated for an Oscar. I'm shocked she got nominated for an Oscar.
Me too.
Like, I understand, but like it's
great, like, but she's not in the movie for that long.
She's not in the movie.
She doesn't even pop up into the movie basically until the last third of the movie. But it's just such a weird movie. Seeing young Harvey Keitel playing a pimp, and the way that he talks, like the way that he interacts with his young 12-year-old child prostitute, like it's the weirdest movie ever. All the themes are like, it seems dated, but there are, this is Travis Bickle represents a lot of men in America at the time, and a lot of men in America now in terms of their thinking. Maybe not in terms of how they live their lives, but in terms of their thinking. And having somebody like that on screen and presenting him unflinchingly, he's not presented for you to root for him. He's also not presented for you to root against him. It's just like, here's the story of this guy. Here is what's going to happen. The fact that, at the end of the movie, he goes on this rampage, and then he's like hailed as a hero, just says so much about what Scorsese thought about America and New York City at the time. And seeing that play out on screen is just a fascinating watch. The movie's not perfect by any means. It's not something that you're going to really enjoy watching from like a standpoint of being thrilled, because you're really going to be grossed out and really weirded out by a lot of this movie. But it's just great filmmaking. I enjoy it every time. I'm going to give it an A. It's and I can't help but see it in the lineage of the other Scorsese and De Niro characters. And to me, it just feels like a beautiful rough draft of some of the stuff that they were going to make. And it's just like a very unique movie. I've never quite seen a movie like it that existed before. And I mean, obviously we've seen movies like it afterwards because people are trying to make the same movie, but I've never quite seen anything like it at that time. It's just a fascinating character study into these actors and this director. And I gave it an A. I really enjoyed it.
Well, this kind of represented like a shift in Hollywood, especially, independent cinema as well. But like, from what I understand, it's like it didn't glamorize cities. And there's been other films that came before that, obviously, but Scorsese was really like, yeah, this place can suck ass. Like a lot of it, you know what I mean? There's dudes like falling asleep on heroin, like in the doorway of a diner, and just like, yeah. Anyway, it really didn't glamorize these major metropolitan areas. Like I think a lot of old, previous films had done. And I think it kind of like really gave people a negative view of what New York was like for a very long time too.
Yeah, true.
So it make New York look like the worst place in the planet. And he says at the beginning of the movie, he says like, this place is scum and filth. And when Palantine asked him like, what would you do? He's like, honestly, I would clean up the goddamn city. Like the city is a mess. You don't really, other than that, you don't really get like an interplay of how his surroundings and how these things that are happening around him are affecting him. you really see it from the other side. But like that, like living in a place like that has to affect you. I mean, they live in a shithole. He literally says that he has to wash cum and blood off of the backseat of this cab every night. Like you could imagine that kind of life. You're going into porn theaters. It's gross as shit. People are fapping around you. You get into a cab, driving people around. People are saying the most random
People are
crazy
still
shit.
fapping around you.
People are fapping around you still. People are shooting up. People are having sex, and it's just like you live literally like in hell. You know, Scorsese said he wanted the movie to feel like dream-like, not obviously not a good dream, but like this guy lives in a nightmare. He literally lives in a nightmare, and so there's also something to be said about how that surrounding is playing upon our character, and I think it's just so well weaved into the background of the movie. I know Dex said it like wasn't subtle enough. There's a lot of stuff that's not subtle at all about the movie, but I think there are a lot of stuff behind the movie that is subtle in the way that you're supposed to experience the movie. I think it kind of is that perfect balance of having a very clear and easy to understand message, but having very, very small things in the background that are kind of tying together a different narrative. I think it just does a great job of that. I love that part of the movie.
Well,
Yeah, to be clear, like my issue with like the lack of like ambiguity or whatever is not so much about like that part or it being subtle or not. It's just like at the end the answers are too easy, like he obviously he shoots the black guy, but it's like, oh, that guy was like clearly robbing a store, like okay, fine, like you can kill him. And then he kills all the pimps and the bouncers or whatever, and it's like, okay, yeah, like fine, you can kill them. Can you do something that like I'll be like, oh, that sucks, you shouldn't do that, like
yeah, his major actions, other than being like a creep, like his with the girl, the first woman, or Sybil Shepherd rather, like his major actions don't reflect him being a bad person. It's just you have sat there with his thoughts the entire time, so now you're supposed to be like, ugh, but it's like, but his major actions are that he killed the pimp of a child prostitute, like in a
and me, I'm one of those people that's like, not to quote a fucking comic book movie while we're talking about Scorsese, but like it's not like who you are on the inside that matters, it's what you do. Like, so like you being a creep on the inside, that's fine. Everyone's a little bit of a creep on the inside, whatever, but like do something that makes me like, oh, this guy's such a creep. Like, I can't believe he did that. I don't know how to feel. Like all the stuff he does.
Well, yeah, like he threatened to kill a politician, kind of, but then he didn't, and then just killed a black guy.
A black guy who was robbing a store. It's like, okay, yeah, don't rob my friend. You were pointing a gun at my friend. Okay. Like if the black guy was like in an argument with him and didn't pull a gun out yet, and you're like, oh, he might pull a gun out, I don't know. Like that's a little more ambiguous. That's a little more interesting to me, But
if he had killed the politician, like he wouldn't have been a hero. But because he killed some random a pimp and a trick in like a literal whorehouse that had a 12-year-old prostitute in it, like he becomes the hero. That's
yeah, like the answers are too easy at the end for me. Like
I took it all as literal too. There's a lot of people that like want to subscribe sort of like the dream theory thing to this entire thing, and I'm just kind of like, I took it at face value.
I think it's literal. Both times I've watched it, I've taken it literally.
I took it at face value. I heard some of the theories about like what did or didn't happen. Oh, he's bleeding out, and this is all like a dream as he's dying or whatever. But
I'm not gonna lie though, that shot of him bleeding and like doing the gun sign, hard as hell, dude. It's the hardest.
Just sick.
That's frame is like framed in several like, I don't know, books or whatever. Hard as hell. It's incredible.
That shit is dope. The bloody hand.
Yeah. But critics, I said it has like a 94 on Metacritic. Critics smarter than us kind of agree. Roger Ebert said, and I don't know when this was written, maybe it was a retrospective, but like a brilliant nightmare, and like all nightmares, it doesn't tell us half of what we want to know. So people think they're like, this is like horrific to watch, and they got it at the time. But in the 20th anniversary, Denson Thompson for the Washington Post wrote, and this I think is kind of how we're feeling, it hasn't aged so much as triumphantly metastasized.
I like that.
couldn't
It's a
say it
good
better
turn of
myself.
phrase.
Yeah. So I don't know. T, do you have more thoughts on it?
I just there's just something about there's something about that score that just it sticks with me every time I watch it. The scene where he takes him to the black guy's house and is talking about killing his wife. Just the fact that it's like we don't even that's not even a story point. Like we don't even resolve it. It's just like this is just another night in New York. This is nothing special about this interaction that we're seeing. The only thing special about it is that we're seeing it. But this guy's every day, man. And so, not to excuse any of his thoughts or any of his actions because he's a horrible, horrible person, but to present him in his true, full, naked self and to present him as like who he actually is to the viewer and to let you form your own opinion about him and then make him a hero at the end. I just think it's just a genius movie making trick. I just think it's just very smart in the way that you experience this film. The way they end the film is so smart to me because it's like we could just see the guy go on this killing spree and then he's a horrible person just like we thought he was. That I think that's easy. I think that's what most movies would do. But to present that character, make us hate him because he happens to be an awful person, and he probably looks even more awful sitting where we sit in 2023 than he looked in 1976. Maybe some of those behaviors are more normal or more tolerated at that time. We have grown mostly less tolerable to those type of thought processes and those thoughts of ideologies. So he looks even worse to us as history goes on, but then he becomes the hero of the movie. It's just like there's something about that I just like. And I just think Scorsese is amazing. He's a singular talent. The way this movie is shot is just so incredible to me. I can't really take away. It's not a fun movie to watch, but I can't remove the filmmaking part of it and how much I enjoy that part of it from the actual like experience of watching it, which is like this is gross. Everything this guy thinks is gross. I don't want to be around this guy anymore. But De Niro's just too good at bringing that character to screen. You can't look away. It's one of the weirdest movies I've ever seen.
Can we talk about the Scorsese scene? Why is that in there?
Because Scorsese wanted to say the N-word.
He just wanted to get that off his chest, man.
I mean, just like because it doesn't. I mean, maybe somebody smarter than me would be like, "Well, it sort of." I don't know. It
shows you what the world is like.
It makes him want the biggest, baddest gun he can buy. That's the only through line. He's like, wow, I would like to know what that'll do to a motherfucker's face. That's crazy.
He bought every gun that guy showed him. That guy showed him 4 guns. He said, no, I'll just take all those guns.
Yeah. Or even the rest. Yeah. You have a bazooka?
What you got? I'll buy it.
No, I'll actually just buy you out. I'll buy your whole stock. Just give me all the guns.
I love that guy was like, I'll sell you crack. Like it's just like
he names like 20 drugs that he'll sell the guy.
He's like, a meth reference in 1976 is wild.
He's like, no, I'm not into that shit, man. Like, I'm not into that stuff. You're into some weird ass shit yourself. Don't look down on drug users. You're crazy.
Yeah, bro, you're too good for crack now. You're gonna buy every single gun I sell, but you're too good for crack.
I just for a little mescaline. That's crazy.
The Scorsese scene, just I don't know, man. It really is just don't move. Like he's just like, stay right here. Did I tell you to move? Did I tell you? And you're just like, what is happening? Is that the director of the? Oh my God, that's the director of the movie.
Sybil Shepherd she is breathtaking in this.
It is genuinely
breathtaking.
It is like when Tarantino shows up in his films, just to drop the N-word, and you're just like, what?
It's like a Pulp Fiction where you're like, bro, you just really just wanted to do that day, dude, right?
No one asked you, like I know you
didn't have to. It's fine.
You have to have that scene in there.
Without this.
You have to show what his life is like and also show just kind of like there's so much about like what men think about women in this film throughout this film, the way that men defy their masculinity by how they view women. Like literally him going, like Roy said, him going into quote unquote protective mode and immediately dirty macking her coworker. And like that stuff is really, really, really creepy. And he does the same thing with the child prostitute. He notices she was in danger. He doesn't even save her. He's thinking about her consistently throughout the next couple of how many days or weeks it is. And finally, he just basically goes to find her and intervenes in her life immediately and talks about the guy she spent her time with. Like it just kind of it feeds into that theme of the way that we view women as property, the way that he is viewing women as property before he even knows this woman. He's just like, hey, that dude you be at work with, I don't fuck with him. I don't fuck with him at all. I think he's a clown. I think he's a dweeb. I think you need to stay away from him. I think that you should get away from him right now. Like,
Gear
it's that
whack.
possession.
I do like how the ending scene with Sybil Shepherd where she gets in his cab or whatever is like the meme of the nerd growing up to be like the rich lawyer or whatever.
Beat it, chick.
Beat it, chick. He's just like, yeah, you thought, you know what I mean? Like, it's.
I'm a hero now. I got some vigilante shit to go do.
Yeah, I don't know. We talked about this movie for an hour. It is interesting that he goes on. I mean, after this is essentially his fourth feature film, I believe.
Yep.
He did Mean Streets before this, which Tej, you've seen, correct?
I've seen Mean Streets. It's great.
So
it's great.
Yeah, so there's some ideas in
That's
that.
what like it. That's a more accessible Scorsese. It's more like the other Scorsese stories. Yeah, it's way more accessible than Taxi Driver, which is just one of the weirdest movies ever made.
But then he goes on to make Raging Bull, which by all accounts is a tough watch. So like,
very tough watch.
Yeah,
he was very set. He was feeling a lot of feelings and a lot of things.
He's really working through some
of his
stuff,
life.
you know.
Yeah,
especially his feelings about women because he's been divorced like 5 times. But like,
yeah.
So, no, it is interesting when he makes that shift in our lifetime to like. This is the wrong word for it, but more like popcorn films. You know,
that makes
more
sense.
traditional
Like,
gangster.
is way more of a popcorn film than you know.
Well, and then just like The Aviator and like Gangs of New York, like sort of bigger budget, sort of And I guess you get the clout after you make Goodfellas. You know what I mean? But
yeah.
So I don't know. Casino, he redoes it. So it is really interesting to me. But throughout all of that, he's made like several short films and he's just like constantly working. He's a really interesting figure considering like some of these guys. I mean, Coppola's made like what? His contemporary Coppola has made like 5 movies. So, I don't know. Any other parting thoughts on this?
The Irishman still sucks.
Irishman is bad. Yeah, I don't.
It's not bad. I would say that it's bad, but I also would not say that it's good.
This is definitely better than The Irishman. The Irishman is still at the bottom of my Martin Scorsese rankings of what I've seen.
Killers of the Flower Moon would never. It would never let us down in that way.
Killers of the Flower Moon is getting incredible reviews, by the way.
I cannot fucking wait.
I will be seated. I will be on Adderall.
I will be
focused.
Although, Martin, I get what your sort of quest is here before.
Don't do it, Roy. It's supposed to be 3.5 hours. We want it that long.
No.
Please.
No, that's fine. Bring back intermissions.
Oh, that's fine.
Nice.
I can
work it
that.
in. You have you're a captive audience. You have us. We paid our money.
We paid already. We're there.
You might as well just do us that favor.
So yeah, I gotta piss, dude. I be peeing in movies. I just have to like I just have to go.
These sodas are very large. All right.
Right. I just like it. I understand what he's trying to do, and he's like said, "Oh well, you park your ass on your couch, and you plebs watch 18 hours of like Love Is Blind for
exactly. So
for 2 days in a row."
But I can get up and go pee.
Yeah, I can pause.
I can press pause.
That's the whole
I don't
thing.
just sit there for 3.5 hours straight.
I don't think he's quite grasped that yet for some reason.
He hasn't. He's old, so he's not going to.
Yeah,
he's not going to grasp.
He's like, so I'm gonna keep making these, 4-hour epics or whatever it is. You idiots can sit there and deal with it. But I'm just kind of like, Martin.
I'm interested to see what
we have bathrooms in our house.
What kind of life this movie has at the theaters, because like it seems like they're giving way more effort to making it a theatrical movie than they did for The Irishman. Obviously, it's two different companies, so different approaches. But
And this is going to drop on Apple too eventually, right?
eventually, yeah.
Yeah.
That shit's
So
gonna bang on Apple. I'm running that bitch back, and I wait for it to hit streaming. I'm
yeah,
running that
we'll
bitch
see
right
what
now.
it does at the box office because I feel like when Glass Onion came out, everyone knew that was going to be on Netflix eventually, but they really only had it out in theaters for like a week, and it was like a
Yeah.
month until it
This
was
was
on
gonna get a full
Netflix.
run, right? This was
I
supposed to
think
get a full
so.
run.
Yeah, pretty sure, but like they've also not really broadcast that it's going to be dropped. That like these other dummies are like, and then streaming on Netflix. It's
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
make your money. You know what I mean? Like, it would have made, Glass Onion would have made $100 million if you would have just shut the fuck up. Like, I don't know.
It's hard when the movie
We
is
can't
a
make
Netflix-
money at Netflix. You're like, oh, shit.
I read the first chapter of this book. I'm going to read the second chapter tonight, but this book is so far really well written. This shit's going to be real cinema, bro. It's a perfect Scorsese movie. Leo's going to drop 9,000. It's going to be real cinema.
This
It's
is going to be.
I can't wait.
The book is based on real life, right?
Yeah,
like
it's
it's
a
a true
nonfiction book.
crime.
Yes, it's a nonfiction book.
Okay.
I'm gonna have to audible that one, to be completely honest with you. That's going straight into my ears.
So far,
just
it's
watching
good.
the movie. I'm not gonna do like the hours and hours it'll take me to read the book and then watch a 3.5 hour movie. No, sir. Sorry.
I'm just calling it now. The Oppenheimer. We haven't seen it, but I just know it's going to be praised and get nominated for Best Picture. The Oppenheimer Killers of the Flower Moon discourse is going to be a fucking bloodbath come the Oscars.
Oh my god. Inject it into my fucking veins. I need it. Inject it into my veins. I can't wait.
All the worst white people will have just awful
incredible opinions
on both sides. Oh my god.
We are legion to tell you why.
We are so fucking back. The Oppenheimer versus Killers of the Flower Moon battle is going to be one for the ages. Sign me up.
And then the like super woke people who are like, what about the Japanese people? What about the Native Americans? Like in this whole process, it's just going to be
turn this shit up.
Very, very, very discourse heavy.
Oscar season is coming. Inject it. I cannot wait.
Yeah, so Killers of the Flower Moon coming out this week. We will review it soon. Maybe they will be doing this podcast without me. We were saying off pod. I'm gonna be gone, so I don't think I'm gonna be sitting in a English or Scottish theater for 3.5 hours on vacation. My wife might actually divorce me. I think that would like I don't think I could even watch this movie at 6 a.m. and she not I don't think she'd appreciate that then. So that's understandable. But I don't know if I'll be sneaking around to watch Killers of the Flower Moon. What were you doing? Were you cheating on me? No, babe. I was just watching Killers of the Flower Moon.
I was watching Scorsese. I was watching Leo. I'm sorry.
She thinks I'm cheating. I'm out with the boys watching Killers of the Flower Moon.
Seeing Leo get his bars off, you know what I mean? In a weird accent that he continues to try and do.
Shout out to Joe Lemons. I'm calling it now. We're going for this Oscar, baby.
Turn that shit up.
Mark Texas's finest. Get this due.
To find out who's doing them. That's just like I've watched that trailer several times. He's like,
it's probably my favorite trailer of the year. That's probably my favorite trailer of the year. That shit, the music in that, it's we're about to get some real fucking cinema. I can't wait.
So what have we watched? Have we watched anything besides the Taylor Swift film?
I'm watching Gen V and Loki. Gen V is fucking great. Everybody should be watching. I know that y'all are not watching, but Gen V is great. It's just as nasty, just as violent, and just as well written as The Boys. I've been watching Love is Blind like everybody else. What a shitty season. It was a waste of time.
I'm asleep on Love is Blind. I feel like after every reality dating show after the first season, it's like it's just people who want to be famous now. So like they're all just awful. You got to get on those shows right when they drop, when they're hot, before like people know they can get incredibly famous doing this shit and just become the
not my
worst version
favorite
of
season.
themselves.
And it was in Houston. Bad representation of Houston people. Netflix, I don't appreciate that. I also started the Goosebumps series. I love the Goosebumps movies as a kid. Love, love, love. And
What
it's
is
got
that?
Justin Long. So it's on Hulu. And I only watched the first episode, but so far, pretty good. I'm into it. So far, I am
Oh, it's an
into it.
actual Goosebumps series, or is it like
Yes.
based on one of the books?
No, it's an actual Goosebumps series, and it looks like what they're going to do is incorporate storylines from different books into the main storyline of this show. Because the first episode is about a camera that when you take a picture, if you take a picture of you taken with this camera, the Polaroid that comes out, you're like cursed, and so that's from one of the books. But they're just weaving these things that are happening. They're going to take stuff from different books and weave it into a larger narrative. And so far, so good. But I've only watched one episode, but so far I'm into it.
Dex, have you seen anything?
I started season 2 of Loki. I've only seen the first episode. Is it 2 episodes out now or 3?
There are 2 episodes out now. Yes.
Okay, yeah. So I'm behind on that, but yeah, the first episode was very enjoyable. Shout out to Ki Kwan, my king.
He is him.
Getting more work. We love to see it.
Facts.
Your reigning, defending Academy Award winner for best supporting actor. Shout out. I saw a Taylor Swift movie, like I talked about, and I have not been watching any baseball whatsoever. Don't talk to me about that.
Baseball is a dead and dying sport, invented in the 1800s by racists. Thank you very much.
So you've been watching Baylor football? That's what you've been watching?
I am unfamiliar with that group of individuals. I've only been watching CJ Stroud and the Houston Texans.
Oh, you were talking about like Baylor University football?
Yes. Have you been keeping up? Have you been watching? What are the vibes over there?
What is?
I don't think that activity is of the Lord and should not be partaken in Baylor University. Personally, college football is not of God. So
Again, exploiting these young children for money, refusing to pay up on NIL deals. This is the latter. So yeah, you know,
God said Adam and Eve, not first and 10. So
what?
At least you got CJ Stroud.
God
CJ Stroud
created-
is really him.
God created Adam and Eve, not first downs, brother. That's so stupid. Yes, thank God for CJ Stroud, and I don't want to offend anybody, but Ime Udoka might have us actually playing good basketball in
Please,
Houston.
brothers, please,
Don't sleep.
Ime, please. As long as we win the in-season tournament, I'm going to treat that like a real championship, and I'm going to be talking accordingly. So
I'm
please,
getting
Ime,
t-shirts.
just win the in-season
I'm
tournament.
talking big shit.
Hopefully, we're the only team that really cares about the in-season tournament, and we win that bitch, and I will be talking crazy. That's my hope for the season.
Look, I'm not going to hold you. People are going to make fun of it. But if you had a championship game of like young, like if Victor Wembanyama, like who we're cursing the name of on this podcast, but if Victor Wembanyama versus like, I don't know, Paolo or somebody else or the Rockets or whatever.
Young Jalen and young
Yeah.
Jabari and young Amon Thompson. Yes,
if you
that's
had
it.
that in the final, people would like, oh yeah, shit, free basketball. This is awesome.
We
Like-
would make merch. We would commemorate this moment. We were the first team to ever win the in-season tournament. This shit means something to me, man. We
Better
have
hang
to
a
win
fucking
it.
banner. Like I need
Hang
that.
the fucking banner.
It's going to be the Utah Jazz versus like the Washington. I was going to say Wizards. I was going to say Bullets, but yeah, it's going to be that. But anyway,
It's going to be the Houston Rockets versus one of these, both the Oklahoma City Thunder. We're going to get them niggas the fuck out of here.
We get
We're gonna
Shea
take
out
home
of
the
here,
NC
dog. We
Let's
are
do-
exposing
it's ours.
the Shea Gilgeous
It's ours for the
Alexander
claiming.
for the
It's
lies that
ours.
it is.
the SGA love is unprecedented.
It's insane.
he deserves
I've never
it.
seen anything
He's
like
awesome.
He deserves it.
He's
He is him.
awesome. But
But he's not beating us in the in-season tournament. It's not happening. That's our trophy. That's coming home to Houston, baby. That's coming to
but
Houston.
like he also hadn't won. I'm kind of with
He
Dex on
hasn't done
this.
anything.
He got first. Was he first team All NBA?
He was
I think
first
he
team
was.
All NBA.
That's unbelievable.
He was in. I think he was fifth for the MVP. I think maybe fourth.
I've never seen anything like it. At least when like Luka Doncic was getting glazed all over, he was like dropping 40 in the playoffs. You know what I'm saying? Like What are we doing?
You better stop talking like that because SGA now has Chet, who looks to be phenomenal. That team's
Even
going to be
like
incredible.
I
That team's beating
I have
somebody in the first
never I
round.
have never liked Donovan Mitchell, but even Donovan Mitchell when they were like praising him for whatever in the playoffs as a rookie, you know what I'm saying? Like it's not like how did SGA just skip the line? Like how does this happen?
By being
Why
They
healthy.
him?
the pundits love that OKC team too. That division is
That
going to be a
OKC team is going to be
bloodbath.
good. Unfortunately,
But
I wish
this is
I wish upon their downfall, but they're going to be really good,
this is
really good
a
this year.
movie podcast, so go check out Taylor Swift.
Yeah.
No,
Go
don't
support-
go check out Taylor Swift.
Go
Don't
support the
that
young goat. She's not that young anymore, but it is what it is.
She's 33, like real quick, what I'm watching. I watched 2 movies that are on Amazon, one that came out and tanked in theaters, but it should have done a lot better because it was really, really good. Guy Ritchie's The Covenant with
Oh,
Jake
that's
I haven't
good.
Gyllenhaal.
seen that.
Yeah, it is on Amazon for free right now. So it's awesome. I thought it was really, really good. And kind of breaks a few conventions of like a traditional war movie, but like most of the action is incredible. And then the Tommy Lee Jones Jamie Foxx law movie, The Burial, on Amazon. Have y'all heard about this?
No.
Oh.
Check it out. If it was made in 1993, it would have made $200 million, and Jamie Foxx would have been nominated for Best Actor. But
Journey Smollett's in it too. How have I
Yeah.
never heard of this?
has like a 90 on Rotten Tomatoes. It is the most like 1996 movie that has been created in forever. Tej, watch it. You'll know exactly what I'm talking about.
The Burial.
The Burial,
I'm in it. What? Wait, where is it? Where is it? It's on
Amazon.
Amazon. Got it.
Yeah.
Shout out
So-
to Amazon dropping heat. Shout out to Amazon.
They just straight up like they well, one, have purchased a bunch of movies, but two, like they have no problems with like really putting new releases on their thing. It feels like it takes a long time for some of these places. I mean, Netflix does it, but I don't know. Putting the 2023 movies, I think, on their website is really cool. Yeah. Anyway, anything else? Any housekeeping? Nope. All right. You can find us at a One Take Podcast, One Take Podcast on Twitter, One Take Podcast on Instagram. And you can email the show, I guess, at one take podcast at gmail.com. One Take Podcast Show, rather, at gmail.com. Way too long of an email address. Killers of the Flower Moon, next episode. I may or may not be on it. That's coming next. But what we will continue to do is, Dex.
Hashtag support Florence Pugh. Go watch The Boy and the Heron. She's in the English dub of that.
Oh,
I
yeah.
don't know when that's out or where, but watch that.
On Max,
Did you-
probably in like 2 years for like Miyazaki. Yeah.
You still haven't watched the last one she put out. You still haven't watched it, Dex, have you?
No. And I don't plan on it, to be honest.
He's not the only one.
And I don't
I
plan
think I'm gonna have to go ahead and miss that one, unfortunately, because my support for Florence Pugh stops at movies directed by Zach Braff. So
I
One
found
and
my
only
limit. I
one.
found it.
All right.